Hey up troops, just kidding. Ailot's in here again with another video. That was muted, there's nothing wrong with your headphones. We're here to talk about sound in Siege and how to become, a phrase that I think's hilarious, a better sound whore. I am a whore for sound in Siege. I love it. If I can hear a person coming from 3 rooms away because of a certain hole or a certain way I've manipulated the map, it's tremendous. Very few games on the market, and I mentioned this in the video, are as good as Siege is at you being able to manipulate sound to your advantage. If you can learn all the different things we're about to go through and add all of these things to your game, you will become a better player. It's black and white, it's categoric. If you can become better at understanding sound and knowing where it's coming from and what the different sounds are, you will be a better player. So we're going to go through all of that in this video. Some tips and tricks on sound, some little hints that sort of things that you might not know about sound that hopefully we can try and help you out, and all the basics. There are some basic stuff in here, what certain sounds sound like, but it's good to hear it loud and in a video so you can try and get to grips with what the sounds are. That's enough waffling. I've waffled for ages there. Let's just get stuck into it. So if we're talking about sound, let's get started with the in-game settings that I use, and I've used these for ages. Obviously, everything's completely personal to you, but this is what I think works best for me. So I have master volume on 70, and on my mixer, the Go XLR, and my Windows volume's 100. My Go XLR volume is also about 70. I think I play with it probably a little bit too loud in my ears. I could probably do a turning this down, but I'm not getting any younger. I'm only getting older, and yeah, the louder, the better to an extent. In-game sound effects, I have those all the way up. I don't have music on in-game or in the menu. I turn those both off. And menu sound effects, I have them on because it's just nice hearing. I just like hearing that. I don't know why. It's a little bit tactile, I guess. Then down to, yeah, menu, music off. Voiceover volume on 50. Voiceover is the like in-game character talk. The guy that goes, what's he say at the start of the round? You know, when the guy goes, find the bomb and defuse. Oh, I can't remember what he says. I mean, I've played, 6,000 hours of Siege, and when it comes to it, I can't remember what he says. But you know the guy that, last enemy remaining, that type of thing. That's the voiceover volume. So I have that on 50. Voiceover preset. So you can see down the right-hand side what this means. You can see minimal. They'll just have critical voiceovers, such as things like when you're being flashbanged or where you're falling down hatches and things like that. And then it goes through there's 4 different settings: minimal, team focus, gameplay focus, and maximum. Maximum is it has everything. I know people who play with less. I know people who play with that because they don't want characters talking. You know why? When Clash is always like shouting and stuff in rounds. Some people don't like that on. I quite like it. I don't think it affects anything. HQ voiceover is what we've just talked about. It's like it says on the right there, the in-game announcer. It's whether you want that guy to be speaking or not. I have it on. This is important. Don't put this on mono. Mono and stereo is whether you've got your stereo means different sound goes into each earphone, right? If you put it in mono, the same sound goes into both earphones. It says there, left and right audio channels are united into a single stream. So you get the same sound through your left and right earphone. Essentially, you've got no directional audio. So make sure that's always on stereo. Mute on unfocused is just if you tab out. The important one that we've not mentioned is dynamic range, and I left that to last for a reason. Dynamic range is a subject. I'm actually going to open Paint very quickly, which I do sometimes. Dynamic range is a topic that a lot of people talk about, and the choices here are hi-fi, TV, and night mode. Now, what each one of these different modes does is compresses the sound, essentially. So, if you're on, what's the first one? TV is it hi-fi? Sorry. If you're on hi-fi, what that would mean is the range of volume is this much, right? And somebody using footsteps is that much, is like that volume. Somebody using an impact grenade is this much volume. Somebody shooting a gun next to you is this much volume. And a thermite charge going off next to you is this much volume, okay? All those different 3 modes do is compress those volumes to be similar levels. So the problem you have with, in my opinion, if you play on TV or hi-fi, is that if you have a thermite charge go off next to you, you don't hear the footsteps because this volume here is way louder than this volume here. If you play on night mode, which is what I play on, and we'll make a new graph here, just draw a line down here, we'll make a new graph here. All of a sudden, footsteps are this loud. An impact grenade into the wall next to you is that loud. A gun going off to you next to you is that loud, and a thermite charge going off to you next to you is that loud. So you see that this is still louder than a footstep, of course, but the levels are similar. Do you know what I mean? The difference between this level on the graph and this level on the graph is a lot less. Whereas on this one, the difference is huge. The difference here is from there to there. You can see the difference there is massive. The difference here is a lot less. And that's all those 3 settings do. Playing on night mode, in my opinion, this is the night mode one where everything's more compressed, makes the sounds easier to distinguish, in my opinion, and it means things aren't drowned out. So your footsteps aren't drowned out by gunshots all the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you've got someone firing a gun next to you, you're probably not going to hear gunshots. But on like TV and hi-fi, if someone's firing a gun in the next room, you can still struggle to hear gunshots next to you because the difference is so vast. I think I've explained that pretty well there, or at least I hope I have. I have it on night mode. I know most people I know play on night mode, but I have also heard some people saying playing hi-fi and TV is better for them. As always, it's personal preference, but that's what that setting is. There's always a bit of discrepancy around there. So to properly sound whore in Siege, you've really got to know what you're listening for. It's all right hearing sound cues, but you've got to know what they are. Now, this might appear basic to some people, but I'm going to make it abundantly clear what those sounds are. We're going to go through crouch walking, proning, sprinting, and just standard walking. And I'm going to let you see, they're all distinguishable if you listen to it long enough, and hopefully this video can help with that. So what I'll do is I'm just going to stand in the middle of the corridor here, and we're going to have Thermite move up and down in different fashions. I'm going to just jump onto the other PC. Here we go. So we're going to start with, I think, sprinting and then work our way down. So if I just move over here, this is sprinting. Obviously really loud, the most distinguishable sound that we have in Siege. Super loud sound, and really easy to tell by the pace of the footprint, so to speak. It's also just way louder, so that's sprinting. We've then got walking. So as you can tell, walking is a lot quieter. If I walk then sprint, you'll hear the difference. Huge difference. Now, what you can tell with walking is the steps are quieter, but quite close together. If you listen to how fast the footsteps come after one another. It's quite quick. If we now move to crouch walking, you'll hear that the steps are quite distinctly, in my opinion, like separated. You can tell that there's more time in between each one. Now, why this is important, because if you can tell somebody's crouch walking over walking, and you're looking at this doorway here, you'll know whether to aim your crosshair here or here for a crouch walk. So it's really important you get to understand the difference in the sounds there. So, walking. Crouch walking. It's actually surprising, even listening to it now for me, that the crouch walk is actually really quiet when you're walking past someone. Now, one thing you're going to have to learn to know as well, you're going to have to get to know, you're going to have to learn, is the crouch sound and the prone sound. You can tell there's definitely a bassy difference between a crouch and a prone. There's like a thump with the prone. Whereas with the crouch, it's a shift. Almost sounds like a slide. Now, the one thing we haven't talked about is if someone's proning. This sound is... You can kind of hear that he's dragged along the floor. I think whoever designed the sound did a great job of being able to distinguish between the different If I shut my eyes and someone ran past me, I'd be able to tell you whether they were sprinting, walking, proning, or crouch walking. Now, the one that we haven't talked about is slow walking, and that's this. Is slow walking louder than crouch walking? I think slow walking sounds a tad louder, but is harder to detect because the footsteps sound sort of more spaced out, I think. I think crouch walking sounds quieter than slow walking there, in my opinion. Okay, the next sound we want to be looking out for is hatch drops, or drops in general, and there's 2 points to this. One, what it sounds like and what to listen out for, but two, how you can use it to your advantage as an attacker, or a defender, I guess, but this is the sound of somebody dropping a hatch. That distinct feet on the floor, the slam down, if you know what I mean. Now, the same sound. Let me just come again and drop. It's going to be a little while whilst I have to run back upstairs. Again, if I was any good at what I did on YouTube, I'd cut that out, but I haven't got that in me. Right, so this is a prone drop. Exactly the same sound. So you can't distinguish if somebody prone drops or if somebody just drops. But when I was saying you can use it to your advantage, this is what I mean. On this hatch here in Oregon, it's a great example because we've got a drop next to the hatch. You can see that Thermite's on the stage here. So if Thermite was to drop off the stage but not drop the hatch, you would get the same sound. But because of the floor above, it sounds a bit muffled. However, if you... Oh, I'm in the wrong place. If you go and stand over here, you know the bomb's normally here, right? If you're playing smoke or if you've got a C4 and you're just waiting for that hatch drop, you've got a smoke in your hand here, you're going to release that smoke as soon as they drop the hatch. In the heat of the battle, I can assure you that this sound... You will think that is somebody dropping the hatch. 100%. As soon as you go... But that isn't me dropping the hatch. That is Thermite dropping off the stage. So you can use that as an attacker. Before you drop this hatch, in my opinion, you should always just drop off the stage once so you can bait out the C4 or the smoke that is definitely going to be waiting here for you depending on which which defenders are left alive. But as soon as you hear that sound, obviously... That is the sound of a hatch drop. But yeah, but also don't forget one thing I haven't mentioned. This isn't all about defending. Obviously, we're going to be attacking as well. I highly recommend that if you want to drop a hatch, you disguise the sound of you dropping a hatch with a gunshot. So just as your feet are about to touch the floor, you then fire a shot and it disguises the sound of the drop. So like this. That would then disguise the sound of the drop and hopefully the defenders don't know you've dropped. But always try and just... Get into the habit as soon as you drop off, just fire a little shot or one or two shots if you don't get the timing right, just to sort of disguise and drown out the sound of the hatch drop. The next one, which makes its way into every single sound video, is glass on windows, and I'm sure everyone knows this by now. We've got Thermite outside this window here. We're going to go and stand on the other side of the window. So, we're going to stand here, and I'm going to move around with Thermite. Can you hear Thermite moving outside? I'm moving outside the window. You can't really hear him. As I get closer to this door, you can hear him outside that door. Those steps you're hearing? That's Thermite coming to this door. That isn't Thermite outside that window. So let's go back outside the window. Let me stand right next to it. I'm going to run around outside this window with Thermite now. You can hear the odd footstep. Now what I'm going to do is shoot in different places on the barricade here, because I don't want to break the barricade. I just want to break the glass that's on the other side of this barricade. So now the glass is broken, okay? But none of the barricade is broken. So let's stand back on the window here. Can we hear Thermite outside now? You absolutely can, and it's extremely clear. Just by destroying the glass. Now, don't shoot the barricade in the same place twice, otherwise it'll pop the barricade. Just by destroying the glass, the sound is 200, 300% louder. Now, how we can make it louder again is by opening the barricade so we've got a hole that the sound can come through. But if you want to do that, don't shoot the bottom of the barricade or anywhere where you'd be able to get shot from. Shoot it higher up. So now the sound can pass through the barricade, but you're not at risk of getting seen through the barricade. And I will run outside with Thermite again. And that just basically sounds like he's next here at that point. If you break the barricade like there, then obviously anyone outside will be able to see you through the barricade. So get rid of it higher up if you want to. Just getting rid of the glass, generally speaking, is a good thing to do, especially on maps where people are going to be rappelling. So let's just say you were playing Big Tower here, and you were wanting to listen out to people going to be rappelling outside the window. Get rid of that glass. Oh no, I broke the barricade. Get rid of that glass. But now you're going to be able to hear people rappelling outside the window. If you leave that glass up, you will almost definitely not hear anyone rappelling outside that window. It's kind of like... it's the world's worst kept secret in Siege. Everyone knows about breaking glass, but I wanted to give you an example of what it sounds like and how important it is and how much that difference can make. Okay, now we're going to talk about how sound gets to you and how to distinguish where people are. I understand in this video I'm doing a lot of standing around and we're doing a lot of running around with Thermite on the other PC, so apologies that it's not like a visual masterpiece of entertainment, but this will help you understand why sometimes you hear sound at a different side or in a different earphone to where the player actually is. So we're stood in the middle here of two open walls, right? We've got the wall here, the E-box that looks out towards blue, hello thermite. And we've got the wall here on elbow that looks out towards, well, elbow. Now, if we stand somewhat equidistant between these two holes, and we get thermite to come to this hole, I can hear him clear as day in my left earpiece. If we go over to this one, and have a look through here, thermite is now loud as day in my right ear. However, the way that sound works in Siege is sound will go through the nearest hole possible to get to you, okay? So let's just say I'm stood here, and thermite runs over to the head holes on E-box. Here. I hope that's still coming through on the sound for you guys. The thermite's movement is still coming through this hole. However, if we go and look at where thermite is much closer to those holes than he is these. But because I'm stood closer to these holes, the sound takes the fastest route possible to where I am through any open hole. If you can't get through an open hole, it just sounds muffled, like when people are upstairs or on the other side of walls. So thermite is actually here, but because he's moving around, it's coming through the closest hole possible to me. Now, if I was to move here, the sound would be completely different because it would all come through here. But that's sometimes where you're like, if you're stood here and you hear thermite moving, you think he's definitely there because it's coming through this hole. But he's actually much closer to this side because the sound is taking the shortest route possible because I'm closer to this hole than I am to that hole. Obviously, the closer I get to this hole, the sound will start coming through here. And that's why, one thing I haven't mentioned yet, but I suppose I'll just mention it now. What makes a good player sometimes, and you'll see this a lot in higher ranked streamers and even pro play, is when they're like holding an angle, let's just say they're holding here, and they hear something, the player will turn around slightly and will start looking. It kind of looks like they're cheating almost because they're just sort of looking through walls. But all they're doing is turning their head or turning the player's head to get like a different sound profile to understand better where they are. Like if I can hear someone there, if I move here, do I hear them louder or quieter? But this is all done in like micro decisions and microseconds in game. I do it quite a lot myself. Not saying that sounds like I've just called myself a high level player there. I'm not saying that at all, but I know how sound works in Siege, and I know that if you move around a little bit and get like a facing here will give you one sound profile, facing here will give you another, and whatever you need to do to try and ascertain where they are. But that's why you see some decent players do that sometimes. They'll just sort of go, sometimes look up and down or whatever and move around, try and get a better profile of where that sound's coming from. But that's how the sound works, and this goes for holes in walls such as this as well. You know, if you, let's just say we've got a hole in the wall there, we've not got a full rotate, that is literally just a hole in the wall. If somebody was on the other side of that wall, that sound would be coming through this hole. So even that, it's like sometimes it'll sound like they're stood right here, but they're actually over on this side of the wall, but that's because the sound is coming through here. Again, it's not the most entertaining subject, but I find it fascinating in sound design in games, especially Siege, with how good it is. Even though it can be frustrating at times because I don't want to get too far into this, but the sound quality in Siege is world class, but it's so technical because if we're not on a ceiling where there's a soft floor at the minute, but if we were to just go upstairs quickly and we were to go to a floor where there is a soft ceiling, you could have this floor open, so sound could be coming through if people are above. You could have that open for sound coming through here. You could have this open for sound coming through from the lobby area. You could be stood here and you could be hearing 3 different operators, one above you, one that way, and one this way. And what can happen as well is the sound that's above might be coming through another hole that's in the ceiling here, and the sound, actually, the operator's over there, so the sound is coming through this floor, then through this wall, and finding its way to you here, which is why sometimes it sounds like, I do it myself sometimes, I'm like, there's no way I heard that guy there. He was definitely through this wall, not up here. But if you go back and listen to it, you'll probably go, it was muffled. No, he was above, he wasn't behind me. But that's how the sound engine's so good in Siege. I know it can be frustrating at times because it's almost too technical. Not many other games I know of will be able to have sound to like propagate through 3 or 4 walls, depending on the map destruction. Because if that hole's not open, the sound doesn't come through. It only comes through when it's there. Anyway, I could talk about this for hours. Let's go on to the next point, Andy. You're waffling. A very quick and jovial point, and I think it's something that I want taken out of Siege immediately. Don't forget to shoot the radio. If you leave the radios on in the action phase, after the prep phase, or the jukeboxes, or those bloody speakers on the stage on Cafe, you're a troll, and I don't think you should be playing the game of Rainbow Six Siege. Now, there are a couple of exceptions. The consulate basement radio, you can leave that on until the action phase. That can stay on the entire prep phase. And also the jukebox on Outback can stay on the entire prep phase. When the action phase starts, get them gone. You don't want any distractions on the sound that might give you an advantage to win a round. Another set of sound cues that you're going to need to learn, and are really important too, and you can use them to your advantage, is going on cams or throwing drones. Now, for a defender, going on cams is the same sound as throwing a drone. Let me just throw a drone out of the way here and just get rid of that. Now, going on cams is the same for attack and defense, whether you're going on your drones, whether you're going on your cameras. It sounds like this. And then coming off cams, I think that's two pretty distinctive sounds there. Like, you can tell the difference. There's like a click at the beginning of when you first go on cams. Putting it away is like a duller, quieter sound. It's not as obvious. If you are playing defense and you're playing here, and you hear, you know someone's just gone on the cams. Of course, if they don't have yet thrown the drone, and they do this, that's the dream. You know they've thrown the drone and they've gone on the cam. But what you've got to listen out for, and this is a really sort of thing that I've got a clip of me doing this somewhere. I don't know if I've still got it. When I'm playing Maverick on Villa. Should we drone bait him? Every single fucking time. Every single time. You throw the drone, the defender thinks you've gone on your drone, so they swing. Turns out you haven't. So you stand here, you hear this. You think he's on his drone, he's not. So that's how you change in your general settings, I think it is. Is it drone deployment? I can never ever find this. It must be in controls? Drone deployment advanced. What that means is if you have it in basic, when you throw the drone, you automatically go on your cameras. It looks like this. So as soon as you pick your drone up, as soon as you throw it, you'll instantly go like this, straight on your cameras. Whereas in advanced, let me find the drone again. Doing this on two computers is a nightmare. In advanced, you can throw a drone and you don't go on cams, you can stay on your gun. So yeah, that's one thing to think about. And again, as soon as you hear that sound, you know they've gone on cams. That's the sound of them getting off cams. It's quite a distinct sound. Listen for the sound of the throwing the drone, but wait for that sound of them going on cams after to make sure you can clear to push. Another thing you want to be looking out for sound-wise is early sound cues of gadgets to know what's about to happen. And the classic one for this, and a great example, would be an Ash charge, especially at the start of a round when you know an Ash is about to rush. As soon as you hear this, you know an Ash is about to appear somewhere on the map, and you can use the sound to understand, is it in my left ear? That means it's probably going to be the front door. Is it over this side? It might be bottom white stairs. Listen out for those three main sounds at the start of the round. An Ash charge, a Gon 6, or a Zoph impact. The Zoph impact's a little bit harder to hear because it does make a... the Gon 6 makes a distinct sound when it explodes, so does the Ash charge, and there's also a build-up before the Ash charge goes off. But the Zoph impact doesn't actually make that much of a sound on, like, it just, the sound of the barricade breaking is the sound of the Zoph impact. But listening to that is going to give you an advantage straight. If you're in the start of the round and you hear that Ash charge go, you know it's not here, you're going to, hang on, there's an Ash about to come up these stairs here. Get in position. I love going prone on stairs like this, because as soon as they get to the top of the stairs, they're ADSing, and they generally look up like, let me just put Ash where I am here. And then let's us go and do what I just did there. So you're rushing up the stairs, right? And you know the angle you've got to worry about is either this door or this door. So you go up here, and then you move on to this door. And you see how that holographic sight, we don't see Ash at all. Where's Ash? Like, right there behind the sight. So if you go prone on stairs, when people get to the top, they're already looking over you. Oh, you can just about see it. That blends in so nicely with this map up. You can just see a hat there, and it's mad, because that is actually the exact same colour as that barricade. That is insane, but... yeah, as you go upstairs, especially if she was like further over to the right by the door as well, like when you go up here and then ADS the door, you're very rarely going to see her there. Even with like any hollow, it's going to be the same. It's going to be tough to see her. I mean, you're not going to be aiming at the floor as you go up, you're going to be aiming at that height as you go up. But yeah, I love doing that, and then people just run right past you or run right next to you and you just shotgun them in the chops with smoke. Anyway, I've gone off topic there. Yes, listen out for Ash charges, Gon 6s, Zope impacts, and anything at the start of the round that is going to cause a bit of an... create a bit of an advantage for you at the start of the round. Next one, when it comes to sound whoring, and I'm afraid to say that this will only come with experience, is knowing what the weapons sound like so you know what operators you're up against. You don't need to have spotted all the operators on cams to know what you're about to face. You know that if you hear this, I know that's an R4C across the map. I know that's such a distinct sound as well. Shotgun's a bit more tricky, but I still think they're quite distinct. I know that's the, was it M590A1 or whatever it is. But there's not really a trick to this. This is just about playing the game, listening to the different weapons. When you're playing an operator, note what the gun sounds like. A lot of guns have got really distinct sounds, especially like the Lion AR, certain LMGs, the R4C especially. Thermite and Osa's gun is very... I've only just really noticed the charm stands out really well there. You can get this by subscribing on Twitch, twitch.tv/ALittleton. Thanks. It's also on this gun. Look. I can't believe I've got a charm in the game. What a mad time. Anyway, let's not dwell on that. Yeah, you can really get an advantage by knowing which operators are where. So if they're not identified at the top, like this Ash isn't, and you're in a 1v1 at the end of the round, and you hear a certain sound, and you go, hang on, I'm playing an Ash here. Okay, you can start figuring out how to play that situation, because you think, well, it's an Ash. They might have claymores or breaching charges. They've got Ash charges. I don't have to worry about flashbangs. I don't have to worry about smokes or grenades. You can probably play a little bit more aggressive with an Ash if you're playing here, because you don't have to worry about getting flashed or anything like that. But the way you play the situation would be beneficial if you know what operator you're playing against. You can always tell that depending on the sound of the gun. But there's no trick to that. You've just got to play the game, listen to what the guns sound like. And I promise you, after a while, it sounds sad, but they are unique, and you will be able to tell the difference in the sounds of the guns. And last, but by no means least, and I've mentioned this on a ton of videos in the past, especially when it comes to Melusi and operators like Melusi that use things like this, like Fenrir, Legion, etc. And prox mines. You don't need to hold an angle. You can use sound to your advantage to know where someone is almost exactly. So, what I mean by this is, if you know that Ash is in Trophy, you do not want to be holding this angle, because the first thing I would do when I'm in Trophy, if they haven't got the head holes here, if I know it's clear, is I would get here, and I would pre-fire that angle there. I would do that, and I would also then pre-fire this angle here, that angle there, and the angle onto top Y. I would do that every time with tons of different areas of maps. I want to be pre-firing where people are likely to be holding you from. This is a common angle to hold people from. So, if you've got the luxury of having something like this on the door, you can just take a much more passive angle. And this isn't necessarily how to sound whore, this is just using sound to your advantage. But you can put that... Oh, that's a terrible ping, Andy. You can put that prox mine there. You can hold this angle. You're not going to get pre-fired of this angle ever. And you can just wait until you hear that sound. And you know, the second that's going off, they're on the door. As soon as you hear that, you can then pre-fire where you want to pre-fire. Don't hit him in the neck, hit him in the head. But you don't want to be putting your head in that doorway unnecessarily to be pre-fired off until you... Because you know they're not through the door here. You don't need to kill them on the other side of this door. This is something that sends me west when I play Siege, is that people want to kill people here. They're holding this angle here. Yeah, I want them dead by this point. Bear in mind, as a defender especially, they've got to, or an attacker on post plant, they've got to walk through this door to have any kind of effect on the round. If this Ash stays outside this door, the attackers, assuming it's a one-on-one, let's pretend there isn't 4 other attackers, it's a 1v1 at the end of the round. If this Ash doesn't come through this door, you will not win the round as long as you're not stood in the doorway and get your head taken off. Especially if you've got a prox mine, let them come through the door so you get the prox mine notification, you know where they are, and you can take advantage of it. They will probably also freak out and go, oh shit, there's a prox mine somewhere. Maybe turn around, try and get the prox mine, and at that point, it's easy pickings. But use... Oh, sorry, let me move that out the range of that so it doesn't keep going off. Use sound to your advantage, where you're not going to be holding an active angle like this. You can be a bit more passive, hold an off angle. As soon as you hear the sound, then we go. So there we have it. That, in my opinion, is how to become a better sound whore on Siege and the sound you need to listen out for. But we haven't mentioned one important thing, and that's hardware. I use in-ears. Now, these are IEMs, in-ear monitors, in-ears, whatever you want to call them. These are Truth-Ear Critical Zeros, the blue ones. I don't know if you can see that. They're blue. You probably can't see that. I've also used Truth-Ear Hexas, which are really, really good. I actually think the Hexas might be slightly better than these. But I broke my Hexas about 2 months ago, so I've started using these again. I'll probably get some more Hexas in the future when these go. In terms of, do I prefer IEMs or over-the-ear headphones? These are the over-ears that I use. These are EPOS H6 Pro, and I don't really wear headphones anymore, but these were so comfy with the cloth. I prefer cloth ear pads, whatever you want to call them. And these were the best overheads that I used. They don't make these anymore. EPOS have gone back to like musical production type stuff. They've gone away from the gaming side of things. But these were tremendous. If you can get a set of these, I thought they were really, really good. They also have a mic that you can add onto the side here. But I'm not here to tell you about which headphones to use, I guess. I'm telling you my experience. I also had Bear Dynamic DT770s. I used those for ages. They were good as well. I just find in-ears, I've got no hair, so I wear a lot of hats. I find in-ears, just like IEMs, whatever, just really comfy. I feel like I can wear these for hours. I don't even realize I'm wearing them. Obviously, you can wear hats and woolly hats and what have you in the winter. And I used to wear beanies, and I'd have to put the overheads over my beanie, and I couldn't hear things as well. I've just got used to using IEMs now. But you can get a decent set of headphones now for, you could like 20. I think these the Clinical Zero Blue that I'm using here are like 30-40 quid. You get also some Clinical Zero Red, but they're not as good for gaming, but are better for music. But you want the Clinical Zero Blue, in my opinion. Doki of G2 and many other pro players use these, and they're 30 or 40 quid. You don't need to be dropping 200 quid on a headset to think you're getting better sound. This, when I bought it, was like 70, 80 quid. But this is, in my opinion, decent quality. And I've got no affiliation with EPOS. I just think it's good. And if the product's good, I'll tell you. So yeah, there's a ton of different things you can get, but whether it's IEMs or headphones, headphones themselves will give you a slightly better soundstage, as in you'll be able to pinpoint where people are. But I still think with IEMs, I still think there's a decent enough soundstage where I can find out where people are, no problem as well. So there we have it, Sound in Siege, all wrapped up. Cheers for watching, as always. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, you can get the charm if you subscribe once on Twitch. It'll be on your account forever. It will improve your KD by a 0.4. So if you've got a 0.7 KD, you get the A Littleton charm, stick it on for a week or two, you'll be at a 1.1. It's guaranteed, it's science, I'm not arguing with it. Do us a favor, like, comment, subscribe, and all the other good stuff that makes YouTube think that this is a tremendous video. And if it did help you out, then I'm really glad about that, and let me know too. And if you've got any discussion points, let me know in the comments as well. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!